Bonjour les garçons. So this is my first video where I help you self-study. So I'm gonna procure a video. I'm gonna procure also photocopies, or if you have the grammar book, I ask you to buy the blue one. You can also use it. What I'm gonna do every time, I'm gonna write down the main theme of the lesson. In this case, le passé composé, and then I'm gonna just help you go across the pages of the photocopies or the book. So in this case, the first page I want to take a look at, hopefully you have done it, is page 174. Okay, so on page 174, what are we talking about? We are talking about the formation of passé composé and the basic formation of passé composé. So if you have read that page, you should keep two things in mind. The first thing is that, in general, passé composé, when using an ER verb, the past participle is going to end with an A. How do we get that past participle? There is nothing easier. You write your ER verb, d'accord? You're going to remove the ER and you're going to add an A. It works 100% of the time. If you have a verb as weird as créer, right, you do exactly the same thing, and then you write your A with the accent. People will think, hey, this is funny, we have two E with the accent, that's weird. Nothing weird. Remove the ER and you add your A. This is the first thing you should remember. Second thing you should remember is that passé composé means composed passé. Why composed? Because we use two verbs. The first one is avoir. The first one is avoir. Very important in the present tense, au présent, as you all know. And we will use our past participle. The past participle is something like manger here, or créer. Exemple, j'ai mangé. Very easy. J'ai joué. And so on. And so on and so forth. There is nothing very difficult about that. This is just the first page. So now that you have seen that, you can do pages 175 and 176 of the book. On page 177, what do we learn? We simply learn that besides ER verbs, of course, there are in French RE and IR verbs, also irregular verbs and modals, that you can also use, of course, in the passé composé. These verbs are a bit different because they do not end in A. If you consider the phonetic, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to have the verbs that end in E, verbs that end in U, and we're going to have the other ones. Example, something that ends in E, and I'm talking about the phonetic, so it's just a sound, okay? Something that ends in E, fini, for finir, pris, for prendre. Something that is going to end in U, voulu, for vouloir, bu, for boire, lu, for lire. So as you can see, if you take a look at this one is lire. The ending has nothing to do with the word. So lire, the verb lire, passé composé is not j'ai lu, like I often hear. It is j'ai lu. So basically, you have to learn all this by heart. What are the others? The others are some of the most common ones. I'm thinking about fait, pour faire, été, pour être, eu, pour avoir, and some other ones. So that's what you learn on this page. Basically, they give you the 40 very common but different from the ER verbs past participles, okay? So you should know all these by heart. You have no choice. You should know all these by heart. If you understand this and if you took a close look at the grid provided on page 177, you can do exercise 179 and 180. Good luck. We are now on page 182 and we can say that it is time for trouble. That's when it's getting more and more difficult, increasingly difficult, as I can even say. This time, we are going to talk about le passé composé, yes, but le passé composé avec être. Earlier, in the previous sections, we've seen past participles and verbs that require only avoir for passé composé. A few of them don't. There are 14 of them. You can find all of them on page 182, so I won't write them back here, but only show you a couple of, one thing that's very interesting. When you think about it, well, two things. Take a look at this. Venir. What would the opposite of venir be? It's going to be aller. D'accord? What about monter? It's going to be descendre. If you think about all these verbs for 1 second, there is one thing. The first thing is that they are all verbs of movement. Venir et aller. You can do this, right? You can aller, venir, like that. Second one right here, you can monter, and descendre. Monter, descendre, like that. So they are what we call verbes de mouvement. There is always some kind of movement involved. And they always work in pairs, like, opposites. Aller, venir, monter, descendre. I can write a last one, maybe entrer and sortir. So to come in and to go out. Entrer, sortir is also one of them. So these verbs, when using the passé composé, of course, the past participle depends on the verb. So aller, monter, that's pretty easy. Entrer also, very straightforward. But if we are talking about sortir, sortir is a I, right here. Descendre is a U, descendu. So for these ones, we are supposed, so is venu, For these ones, we are supposed to use être, which means that, I'm going to put this right here, we will not have j'ai venu, right? We are going to have je suis venu. Okay? Je suis allé, je suis descendu, je suis monté, etc., etc. Now, where is the thing is getting interesting if we are using subject that are feminine or plural. Elle est, nous sommes. In this case, the past participle here, right, is going to agree with the subject. What does this mean? It simply means that if our subject here is feminine, this here is going to be feminine as well. If our subject is plural, like this one here, this is going to be plural as well. Of course, if our subject is feminine and plural, like this is going to be feminine and plural. Let's write another one. Elles sont venues. In French, this is called l'accord, the agreement. Alors, si je fais l'accord, elle est venue, elle is feminine, obviously, I will need to write an E. Si je fais l'accord ici, nous sommes venus, I am talking about many people, more than one person, I am going to add an S. Let's pretend that nous is only girls. Well, I am going to add an E. Yes, elles sont venues, I'm talking about girls, many girls, I'm going to add an ES. This is it for le passé composé avec être. If you think that this is okay and that you understand everything, you can do exercise on page 183 and page 184. Bonne chance, messieurs.